There are moments in a man's life when silence says more than any scream could. That Sunday night was one of them. The house smelled like garlic and roast chicken. Rachel had gone all out. Linen napkins folded like hotel dining, candles burning low, music humming soft in the background. A photo-perfect dinner. The kind you work for all week. The kind you pretend will hold the family together. I'd spent the afternoon fixing a broken fence post Tyler swore he'd get to 2 weeks ago. My back still ached. My palms were raw from the pressure of the drill. I didn't complain. I never did. It was easier to keep my head down and keep building. Tyler was the last to sit. His younger brother, Drew, followed close behind, their plates already heavy with food. I watched them joke quietly with each other, their laughs low and shared, the kind of secret rhythm I was never invited into. That was fine. I told myself that was just how brothers were. But when I looked at Rachel, I saw the smile she gave them, soft, unguarded, and the way her face stiffened slightly when she glanced at me. I'd seen that look before. It was the one people wear when they're about to ask for something they know you won't like. She poured wine into 2 glasses, set one in front of me like a ritual she didn't believe in anymore. We ate in near silence for a few minutes. Chicken passed around. Potatoes. Small bites of small talk. It might have looked like a family to someone watching through a window, but something was off. The air felt pressurized, like everyone knew a line had been drawn but no one wanted to name it. Until Tyler did. He set his fork down gently, wiped the corners of his mouth with his napkin like he was delivering a toast. Then he looked at me, not past me, not through me, at me. "I think we should be clear from now on," he said calmly. "Any major decisions, tuition, housing, summer plans, whatever, they'll go through Mark. He's our real dad. It just makes more sense that way. No drama, no raised voice." He didn't say it to hurt me. That's what made it worse. It wasn't personal. It was policy. Drew didn't say anything. He just nodded like he'd already heard the whole speech before. Like this was rehearsed in the quiet spaces I was never invited into. I looked at Rachel. She didn't look back. She picked up her wine, took a sip, and said softly, "Can we not ruin the evening, please?" That was the moment everything broke. But not loudly. Not dramatically. Not the way people expect things to end. I didn't slam my fist on the table. I didn't raise my voice or demand explanations. That would have given them something to push against. Something to blame. Instead, I finished chewing. Swallowed. Took another sip of wine. I nodded, not at anyone in particular. Just to myself. Like a man confirming something he already suspected. I rose from my chair. Took my plate to the sink. Washed it in slow, methodical circles. Dried it with the towel hanging from the oven. Every movement practiced. Controlled. Like I was performing some final rite. When I turned to leave, I didn't say a word. I walked out of the dining room, down the hall and into the guest bedroom. The one I'd quietly started sleeping in 2 months ago, when Rachel said my tossing kept her up at night. It was never really about the tossing. That room had always felt temporary. Spare. A place for someone passing through. And now I understood why it felt so familiar. I sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor. I couldn't hear what they were saying behind me, if they were saying anything at all. Maybe they'd already moved on to dessert. Maybe Rachel had cut into the apple pie I brought home from the market, the one no one thanked me for. More likely, they had nothing left to say. What Tyler said wasn't up for debate. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a verdict, a shift in the order of things. And by saying it out loud, calmly, confidently, he had formalized what had always been true in small, silent ways. I was the placeholder, the bridge between childhood and whatever fantasy they still held of Mark, the ghost they called Dad when it was convenient, when he showed up once a month with tickets or cash or stories about how hard he was working to be better. The man they forgave before he even asked. Mark had history on his side. I had responsibility. And in a house where sentiment meant more than sweat, history always won. I had been the one who showed up. Parent-teacher conferences, broken curfews, illnesses, car breakdowns. I was there, quietly, consistently, But I wasn't blood. And now I wasn't needed. Not for guidance. Not for discipline. Not even for decisions. Just a wallet. A witness. I sat there until the house went quiet. The sounds of dishes being rinsed. Chairs scraping. Laughter. Not cruel, just careless. Drifting faintly through the vents. Like they'd already forgotten the weight of what had been said. That was the worst part. It didn't feel like betrayal. Felt like procedure. Like my relevance had expired, and they were just adjusting accordingly. I walked out to the garage, opened the cabinet with the old college files, Madison's paperwork, account ledgers, copies of housing agreements. All of it neatly stacked, in folders marked with Drew's name. Dozens of pages of forms, agreements, codes, each of them signed with my name, my social security number, my guarantee. It hit me, right there under the flickering light. I had funded their future on the assumption that I was part of it. But I wasn't. Not really. I was the scaffolding they'd remove once the real structure returned. Mark, their father, the man whose name still held weight, even if his presence didn't. I stood there, holding the folder, and felt a strange calm wash over me. The kind of clarity that doesn't come from anger but from absence. From the absence of illusion, of false hope. They had drawn their line, clear, unflinching, and for once I didn't argue, because I finally saw the truth of it. This wasn't my family, not by their choice, and maybe not by mine anymore either. I didn't sleep that night. The house went still around 11. Lights flicked off, footsteps muffled into silence, and the vague hum of the dishwasher winding down its final cycle. Rachel didn't knock on the door to check on me. Tyler didn't send one of his smug little half-apologies through the wall. No one asked if I was okay, because in their eyes, I wasn't hurt. I was dismissed. I waited until I was sure they were asleep. Then I got up, slipped a hoodie over my shoulders, and left the house through the back patio like a guest overstaying his welcome. The rental apartment was only 15 minutes away. One bedroom, sparse, temporary. A place I'd leased 3 weeks prior after Rachel asked if I could give her some breathing room during what she called a difficult emotional season. I agreed, like I always did. I never fought back. I thought giving her space might bring her closer again. What a joke. The apartment smelled like paint and someone else's regret. I hadn't even moved furniture in. Just a bed frame, a folding table, and a desk I'd been too tired to assemble. I sat cross-legged on the bare mattress, laptop on my thighs, and opened the files I'd been avoiding for months. Tuition breakdowns, housing fees, monthly allowances, autopay schedules, all of it under my name. Every cent, every obligation, every future they were building was rooted in my signature. I had kept it all going in the background like an invisible machine, reliable, unthanked. Rachel never asked how much it cost. Tyler never offered gratitude. Drew, still young enough to know better, had started to mimic his brother's tone. I was no longer a presence in their lives, just a system. I hovered over the tuition document, the one tied to Madison's fall semester. Due in 32 days, $23,000, not including books or housing. I checked the autopay status. It was ready. The withdrawal date was locked. I stared at the green icon next to it, the one that said active, and for the first time I didn't feel dread or guilt. I felt clarity. I clicked Manage Settings, then Cancel Autopay. A warning popped up. Are you sure? Canceling may affect your student's enrollment. I smiled, just barely. My student. That's what the system called him. I had filled that form out myself, choosing the role, father. Not step, not other, just father. I clicked Confirm. The green icon turned gray. I moved to the housing account. Monthly rental transfer for the off-campus apartment in Madison. It had my name on the lease. My emergency contact. My insurance coverage. I canceled the direct deposit. Set the final date to the previous month. Clicked Send Notice to Property Manager. I kept going. Drew's high school pre-college program, $1,200 for a summer module on engineering. Gone. The essentials card for Tyler's gas and groceries, frozen. The Spotify family account they used, the Netflix I never watched, the Adobe suite for Drew's hobby and graphic design. One by one, I erased every subscription that ran through my card like blood through veins. Not out of revenge, but because I was no longer the body they were part of. At 6:40 a.m., I sent an email to the university's finance office. Subject: Funding cancellation. Tyler R. Dawson. Student ID 3826749. Hello. Please cancel all tuition-related payments associated with my account. Effective immediately, I am no longer the financial guarantor for Tyler R. Dawson. Any further correspondence should be directed to his biological father, Mark Dawson. Michael C. Lane. No explanations. No elaborations. Just facts. I read it back once, then hit send. And just like that, 16 years of support ended with a single keystroke. I leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. Not time. Not money. Not presence. They had drawn the line, and now I had stepped away from it. Around 7:30, my phone buzzed. Rachel. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, a text. Morning. Everything okay? You didn't come back. No punctuation. Not even a question mark. The message of someone trying to sound concerned without sounding guilty. I didn't reply. I made coffee, sat at the table, and watched the sun spill over the horizon outside the apartment's thin plastic blinds. There were no footsteps above me. No teenage complaints about Wi-Fi. No wet towels on the floor. Just quiet. Just mine. By 8:45, another text. Tyler's account says tuition is overdue. Did something happen with the payment? The word account stood out to me. Not our son. Not your support. Just account. As if all I had ever been was a bank. At 9:12 a.m., she called. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice was bright, forced, like someone calling customer service. Hey, I think something weird's going on with the school payments. Tyler checked this morning and I cut her off. It's not weird, I said. I canceled it. A pause. Long enough that I could hear her mouth open and close on the other end. What? I canceled the tuition, housing, the card, all of it. Why would you? She caught herself. Switch tones. Michael, this isn't the time to be dramatic. It's Tyler's senior year. He can't afford to miss a semester. I sipped my coffee. I agree, which is why you should talk to his real dad. You know, the one who makes the decisions now. She went silent. When she spoke again, her voice was cold, controlled. You're punishing him for saying something stupid at dinner? I'm not punishing anyone, I said. I'm accepting what was made clear. I'm not the father. I'm not the decision maker. I'm just the bank. And the bank's closed. Michael. I hung up. She called again and again. Left voicemails I didn't listen to. By 10 a.m., my phone was buzzing with Tyler's name. I didn't answer. I imagined the look on his face when the university portal rejected his login. The panic behind his bravado. The realization that all those invisible lifelines, the housing, the meals, the laptop, the gas weren't natural. They were bought, and they were gone. By 10:40, the apartment door buzzed. Rachel. I didn't let her in. She texted from the parking lot. You're going to ruin his life over one sentence. This is your pride, not parenting. No, I thought, this is your silence. Because when Tyler looked me in the eye and told me that Mark made the decisions, you didn't flinch. You didn't defend me. You didn't even pause. You said, let's not ruin the evening. So I didn't. But now the evening is over. And morning has come. And with it, the truth. The calls started before noon. Not the careful ones. Not the polite ones. The desperate kind. The kind where breathing comes fast and words trip over each other like they're afraid of being left behind. At 9:12 a.m., Rachel called again. I watched the screen light up on the table. Her name pulsed there like a warning. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered. Her voice rushed out before I could speak. Michael, something's wrong. Tyler just checked his portal. His housing balance is gone. The payment history, everything's blank. What did you do? I leaned back in the chair and stared at the bare wall. I already told you. This isn't funny, she said. Mark isn't answering his phone. Tyler's freaking out. The school's saying the account holder withdrew. Yes, I said. The account holder did. There was a pause. Not silence, confusion. The sound of a mind rearranging reality in real time. You can't just disappear, she said. You don't get to do that. I almost laughed. Almost. I didn't disappear, I said. I stepped aside, like you asked, like Tyler decided. That's not what he meant, she snapped. You know that. No, I said quietly. I know exactly what he meant, and so did you. You just didn't think I'd listen. Her voice dropped, slowed, the way it did when she was trying to regain control. This is about your ego. No, I said. This is about my name being removed from decisions. And I took it seriously. She inhaled sharply. You're ruining everything. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, Tyler tried. I didn't answer. He texted. This better be some kind of mistake. Then another. They're saying I could be unenrolled if this isn't fixed today. I stared at the screen and felt nothing. No triumph. No guilt. Just distance. At 11:47 a.m. Mark called. I recognized the number immediately. The same one that had been absent for birthdays, school meetings, emergencies. The man who existed only when his authority was useful. I answered. What the hell did you do? He shouted. No greeting. No hesitation. I followed your lead, I said. My lead. Yes, I said. You're the real dad. You make the decisions. Congratulations. You crossed a line, he said. You don't get to play games with my son's future. I closed my eyes, counted to 3. You set the line, I said. Sunday night. I just noticed it. This is between you and Rachel, he barked. Don't drag Tyler into it. I smiled. Tyler dragged me into it when he told me I wasn't his father. Silence. Then, weaker. You didn't have to cut everything. I did, I said, because everything was under my name, and my name no longer belongs there. You're being petty, he said. You always wanted control. No, I said. I wanted respect. Control was just what came with paying. He cursed under his breath. I don't have that kind of money. I know, I said. That's why this hurts. You think you're teaching a lesson? He said. You're just proving you were never family. That was proven for me, I said. At dinner. I hung up. By early afternoon, the confidence they'd worn so easily had evaporated, replaced by panic, by scrambling, by the sudden realization that systems don't run on assumptions. Tyler called again. This time I answered. You need to fix this, he said. No greeting, no apology, just demand. I waited. Let the silence stretch. You hear me? He snapped. I hear you, I said. I heard you Sunday too. This isn't the same thing, he said. This is real. So was that, I said. You just didn't think it would cost you anything. You're doing this to hurt Mom, he said. No, I said. I'm doing this because I was told where I stand. You're not my dad, he said again, quieter this time, testing it. No, I agreed. I'm not. Another pause. Longer. So you're really going to let me lose everything? He asked. I thought of the fence post, the late nights, the paperwork, the years. I'm going to let your father handle it, I said. You know he won't. I know, I said. You should have thought of that. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just hung up. By evening, the house was in chaos without me there. Rachel's messages came rapid fire. Accusations. Please. Threats disguised as concern. I read none of them. I cooked dinner alone. Ate slowly. Washed the plate. Outside, the city moved on. Unaware. Uninterested. And inside me, something finally settled. They had confidence when they thought I was permanent. When my role was invisible. When my money was automatic. Now they had panic. And I had clarity. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain myself. I just stopped pretending I belonged somewhere I was already erased. I didn't go back to the table. That decision mattered more than anything I canceled, deleted, or withdrew. Tables are where families negotiate, where men plead their case, where silence is supposed to be broken for the sake of peace. I had done enough of that. I had sat through enough meals where my presence was tolerated, not welcomed. Enough conversations where my role was assumed but never acknowledged. So I stayed away. The rented apartment became my perimeter, neutral ground, a place where no one expected anything from me except rent, which I paid on time without resentment. I slept better there, not because the bed was comfortable, but because the air wasn't heavy with expectation. No one was waiting to be disappointed by me. No one was waiting to take. Rachel came once. She stood outside the door like a stranger, arms crossed, eyes already tired. I didn't invite her in. We talked through the open space like two people who had already decided the conversation wouldn't change anything. "You didn't have to do it like this," she said. I nodded. "I know." She waited for more. For justification. For regret. It didn't come. Tyler didn't call again. Neither did Drew. The silence stretched, then hardened. I imagined them adjusting, finding other answers, other excuses, other adults to lean on. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe the world hit harder than they expected. That wasn't mine to manage anymore. Mark sent one last message. Not an apology. Not a threat. Just a statement. "You made things harder than they had to be." I read it once and deleted it. Because that sentence belonged to me. I had made things easier. Easier by removing myself from a role I was never allowed to fully inhabit. Easier by accepting the truth instead of reshaping myself to fit their comfort. Weeks passed. The panic faded from my phone. The apartment stopped feeling temporary. I bought a real table. 2 chairs. I used one. In the mornings, I drank coffee without bracing for confrontation. At night, I slept without rehearsing conversations that would never happen. The quiet wasn't lonely. It was earned. I thought often about the word father. How easily it's used. How quickly it's revoked. How blood excuses absence, while presence is treated like a convenience. I had tried to be permanent in a family that only valued me as long as I stayed flexible. That was my mistake. I didn't leave to teach them a lesson. I left because staying would have required me to disappear completely, to fund a future I wasn't allowed to shape, to smile at a table where my voice carried no weight. I had confused endurance with virtue. I had mistaken patience for love. The bill came due the moment I stopped paying it. And now, looking back, I don't feel anger. I feel something colder and steadier. Clarity. I know exactly who I was to them. I know exactly when it ended. And I know that walking away wasn't cruelty, it was alignment. My actions finally matched the role they assigned me. None. So tell me this. Was I wrong to step out of a future that no longer had a place for me? Or would you have stayed? Quietly paying, quietly shrinking, just to keep a seat at a table where you were never truly invited?